Well, that's it. We have everything announced for Halloween Horror Nights 27. All the goodies have been revealed. Houses, scare zone shows, everything is here. We're going to talk about the original content houses that were announced today. Plus, I'm going to give you my hype list. Everybody loves the hype list. It's time for the hype list. My most anticipated houses and scare zones ranked for the year. It's coming up right after this. Well, hello there, everybody out there. Hello, everybody out there in Atlanta. This is Chris from HLakes.com with another exciting episode of My Talking Head. It's been a long morning so far. Of course, this morning, all four of the original content houses were announced by Halloween Horror Nights. It was announced early by the good folks over at USA Today, who got an exclusive sneak peek at the original content houses. That's kind of how this stuff goes these days. I don't think it was an intentional leak. I think they got first crack at revealing what the original houses were, and then Halloween Horror Nights followed suit after that. So we got the original content houses, so everything has been revealed. Everything has been revealed. We know everything about Halloween Horror Nights 27. So I think I'm done here. That's it. Go forth hither, have fun at the event, and I will see you guys there. I'm kidding, of course. We're not going to leave here without talking about the original houses. Plus, I promised my hype list, so we're going to do the hype list. By the way, those creaking noises that you heard as me walking away, those are my bones. Chris is getting old. But anyway, so we got the original houses to talk about. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I have been in the past, since we have all four of these things announced this morning. I'm going to do it in my hype list. So I'm going to give the rankings of everything that I'm most looking forward to and things that I'm not so much looking forward to. And as we get to the houses in those in the hype list, I will talk about the original content houses. I will talk more in detail about all this stuff once I get to the chat cast before the event starts, which I think is going to be this Sunday. That depends on life. If things get in the way and I won't be able to do it, I'll let you guys know, but that is the current plan. So let's get to the hype list. So people love these lists. They love to see people rank stuff. I do it every year. Sometimes I do it on my Twitter feed. Sometimes I do it in the blog. This year I figured that I'd just dump everything into one video. Last year I think I did it in the chat cast, actually. So we're just going to do everything all in one video. We're going to do everything all in one video. We're going to get the hype list out of the way. Talk a little bit more about the things that I've already talked about, plus get into detail about the original content houses. So let's start with the houses, the hype list for the houses. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to the top. So things that I'm least looking forward to what I'm most looking forward to. Some people might be surprised, but here we go. So at the bottom of the house hype list is Blumhouse, the horrors of Blumhouse. I keep wanting to call it Blumhouse of Horrors. I think everyone wants to call it Blumhouse of Horrors, but it is not Blumhouse of Horrors. It is the horrors of Blumhouse. So I talked about it a little bit the other day. That's a truck outside, if you heard that. Of course, naturally. But I think it might be the garbage truck, so it might get a little loud in here. But anyway, so the horrors of Blumhouse. I talked a little bit about it in the video the other day. I'm just not a fan of the properties that are being featured in this house. And it might surprise some people when I get to the Scare Zone hype list, but I'm not really looking forward to the properties in here. I started watching Sinister a long time ago, and I could not get through it. The first Sinister I was not a fan. I liked the first Insidious film. I also liked the second Insidious film. I did not see the third one, and obviously the fourth one has not been released yet. It was supposed to be released around Halloween time, but it got pushed back until 2018. I'm not sure if it's going to be early 2018 or if it got pushed back to the summer, but it was supposed to be released around Halloween time. So it's kind of no surprise that they went after Insidious for this year because of the fourth film. Both coasts, of course, have it. Hollywood has its own Insidious house this year. We, of course, have it in the Blumhouse mashup. The Purge, like I said, I'm not a fan of the franchise. The Purge house, the house that was featured, when Scream got scrapped, when Scream got purged, the house that was featured back then, I actually didn't think it was that bad. I thought that what they had the hastily trying to, to make a house. I thought they did a pretty decent job. That house was all about the actors. I say it every year. You can have the most fanciest of sets known to man in these houses, but it is not about the sets for me. It's not about the setting, the design and whatever. It's about the actors. The actors need to bring the energy, bring the scares, and that makes a house for me. So, in terms of the first Purge house, I actually thought the actors did a good job. My mom, that wasn't the first year I took my mom to the event. First time she had ever gone. And my mom really doesn't have any, she doesn't know what the Purge is, really. I'm sure she might know what it is, but I don't think she's ever seen the Purge. And my mom actually kind of enjoyed the Purge house for what it was. So I hope that, even though I'm not a fan of the property, I hope that they can do, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong in this. It is what it is. But Blumhouse at the bottom of the list. So let's move on to number 8, and we've got our first new original, and this is Hive. Speaking of Scream getting purged, Hive is a replacement for something else that got purged. This was not supposed to be an original house. It's actually supposed to be the backup plan for for something that might have gotten purged was another IP potentially, but they decided to go into an original direction. It's vampires. It's also set in Cary, Ohio, which is interesting. So they decided to sort of retcon the mythology a little bit, or put more into the mythology, I should say. They're not retconning anything, but Cary, Ohio tends to pop up, of course. You can go on my website, on my blog. On my website, I do have an entire section dedicated to the mysteries surrounding Cary, Ohio. So this is going to have to be put in there eventually. It's set in the 80s. The blog mentioned that, we're all, giant 80s horror fans, and things of that nature. They say not to expect, these vampires are not like what they were in Van 55, for example. They're not fun vampires. They don't sparkle in the sunlight. They're not, the sort of romantic type of vampires that Dracula was. These are monsters. These are vicious monsters. But at the end of the day, they're still vampires. So vampires are kind of overkill for me. So, they really need to do something extremely special in this house to really get me jazzed or excited about it. But they're vampires. It goes slightly above Blumhouse because, probably because of the Cary, Ohio connection. When I heard about that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But, this house for me is more intriguing because of how it was created. The backstory behind the birth of this house is really kind of is going to go down, I think, in some of Horror Nights lore, eventually over time. But at the end of the day, they are still vampires, and I just don't really care enough about vampires because they are kind of overdone. I would have liked something, we've had American Werewolf in London, obviously, but instead of vampires, do a werewolf house. Do something else. Instead of just vampires. Vampires all the time. Van 55 was popular last year, so it's kind of no surprise that they did vampires. Not surprised. We got vampires, and instead of the 1950s, it's the 1980s. It is what it is. So moving on, we go to number 7, and number 7 is Saw. I said in the video that I did for Saw, I do not like the franchise. I did go back last weekend, and I mentioned before, I stopped watching the Saw films at number 4. So everything after that I didn't know. And yes, there's going to be 8 films with the release of Jigsaw. There were 7 total. I know I screwed up that number. So yes, I had to watch 7 fucking Saw films. Damn you, Horror Nights. But I did. I went back and I watched all the Saw movies from beginning to end. I started with the first one. The first one's still the best one in my opinion. I believe it was Saw 6. Saw 6 I thought was actually kind of interesting. The one that was before, the one with the insurance doctor. I believe that was 6. I actually found that one interesting, and I thought that the traps that were being used were actually kind of cool as well. But my problem with the Saw franchise is that it goes off and tries to be something extremely more intelligent than what it actually is. The story just gets way too convoluted. it is what it is. But nevertheless, I'm actually looking forward to the house. Not super hyped for it because mainly because of the traps. That's why I went back and I watched the Saw franchise, because I wanted to see some of these traps that could be featured in the house. And I believe it was on the website today, or I saw it somewhere. I saw an image of the bathroom. I think it was from the first Saw film. So I'm looking forward to it, because I actually like the first Saw movie. I think the first Saw movie is still very good. Of course, directed by James Wan, who directed the first two Insidious films and also The Conjuring. But it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in here, because the first Saw house was not very good. At least I didn't like the first Saw house. It seems like they're kind of going in that same direction where they're doing like a best of type thing, which is cool, I guess. But it didn't work the first time, so we'll see how it works this time. It's of course in a new venue. It's in at this point I think we can. It's in the Shrek building. So, at least I think it is. I glanced at the map. The map is available on the website, by the way. And we have a new location for an entrance. We'll get to that a little bit later. So anyway, I am looking forward to Saw, but not as much as the other one. So we move on to number 6, and this is American Horror Story. I stopped watching American Horror Story a long time ago. I tried to watch Hotel last year for specifically for the house, and I could not finish it. I thought it was awful. I have not seen Roanoke because I cut my cable a long time ago, so I don't really have access to. I mean, I guess I do technically, but I just I'm not going to jail for American Horror Story Roanoke. But I have not seen Roanoke, so I don't know. I'm not familiar with the storyline of Roanoke. It is what it is. Like, I like Asylum. Asylum is probably my favorite season of American Horror Story, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do there. I hated Coven. Coven is really where they started to lose me. And like I said, I haven't seen Roanoke. So it is what it is. The one thing that American Horror Story for me that it had for me last year was the sets. I was not a fan of the house last year. I thought it was kind of lacking. Even though it had the largest cast assembled, it almost felt like there was nobody in that house. It felt empty. There was a lot of dead space, and you just kind of walking around and looking at stuff. And for me, that's not. I don't. Like I said before, I don't really care. I mean, I care, but it's not important to me to just be looking at the sets. There has to be some elements of scares in there or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping that this is actually better than the house last year, especially with Asylum, because Asylum, like I said, is hands down my favorite season of American Horror Story. So I am looking forward to American Horror Story, but probably not as much as some people are. It is what it is. So moving on, we're going to go to number 5, and that is Scarecrow, the Reaping. Now, Scarecrow, the Reaping is this Dust Bowl house that everyone, all the speculators were speculating about for months. I heard about this a long time ago. The description of it, I think I heard about it back in, I want to say March, somewhere around there. Somebody's trying to haul something up the stairs. That's awesome. Maybe I'm being reaped. Are the scarecrows here? But anyway, so this house sounds interesting. Like I said, it is the Dust Bowl house. It's also the house. Everyone's been posting pictures of that stupid windmill. This is that house. This is the windmill house. The corn, I've seen the corn. There's a lot of corn out front. The whole idea behind this is that you're on these Nebraska farms. These farms in Nebraska have been ravaged by the Dust Bowl, by the dry weather. So nothing grows. And there's vengeance. These scarecrows, are kind of guardians of these crops and whatnot. It sounded to me like they talked about like farm equipment, and almost in a backdoor way, it sounded like there was going to be like possessed farm equipment, or maybe the scarecrows are driving the farm equipment to harvest people, which is kind of interesting. If they could pull something like that off, I'd be happy with it. The aesthetic to this sounds really cool. I like the setting. Some of the images. That's the other thing about all these houses, is that the images, the set design, the photos coming out of some of these houses are incredible. And I can't wait to see these things in person. This one is no exception. There's a lot of really cool images coming out of this house. It looks cool. I'm excited about it. I really am. There's going to be a lot of people that are complaining about names this year. I'm not a fan of the name of this. Scarecrow, the Reaping. Just sounds kind of weird. I don't know why it's not plural. Why it's not scarecrows and is scarecrow. There's some of the storyline to this kind of sounds like things were plucked from the Crow storyline, the unused icon for Halloween Horror Nights 2008. It's the house talks about the blood. Things don't grow and stuff like that, and they're possessed scarecrows and possessed farm equipment potentially. In the 2008 storyline for Crow, talks about the blood, like the ground is like soaked in blood and nothing grows, and things are possessed and things of that nature. This kind of has that same vibe. So I wonder if the scarecrow is significant in that aspect, where it's like not scarecrows but scarecrow. I don't know. This also sounds like this could be, I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, I am excited for this, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I am. That's why I put it at number 5. I am excited for this, but there's something missing from this for me. Like there is something that doesn't seem all there. So I don't know. But like I said, it looks spectacular. There is, if there's possessed farm equipment, I'll be happy. And possessed farm equipment, trying to reap people or, harvest people or reap, depending. But anyway, so we're going to move on. So number 4 is The Shining. And I've talked about The Shining a couple times. I'm not as big of a fan of The Shining as some people are. I studied it a lot in film school, and it was kind of beaten over my head. Beaten to death, really. I don't have the love for it anymore that some people have. It's a really well done film. It's got a lot of really good imagery, which could translate very, very well in Horror Nights world. I've seen some images from this house, and that actually makes me more excited probably than I should be. So that's why it's a little bit higher on the list. It is what it is. It's The Shining. This is a house that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, and it is here. We have The Shining, so it's here. It is not Stephen King approved. This is strictly based off of Stanley Kubrick's version, as I talked about in the past. But like I said, some of the images that I've seen coming out of this house actually have me really excited, which is why it's a little bit higher up on the hype list. So moving on, we're going to go to number 3, which is The Fallen. The Fallen is another one of the originals that was announced today. I've been hearing about this house for a long time. This is almost like Invasion. I've been hearing about this house for a long time. This is if you follow some of the chatter and stuff like that, this is the one that people have referred to as sort of the crossover house of 2 houses from the past, which is Gothic and Catacombs. I think it's a little bit more Gothic than Catacombs. In fact, it talks about the flying monsters, and Gothic famously had the flying gargoyles. They were also, I can't remember whether they're flying gargoyle in the 25 Years of Monsters and Mayhem. I believe they had in the Gothic sort of representation of that, they had the flying gargoyles. I can't remember. When you go to the event, as long as I have, a lot of these things sort of meld together. You're like, was that year? Was it this year? Was it this house? Sometimes you can't remember things. Really, they start to meld together. I'm also working on my top 10 or bottom 10 houses of all time at Halloween Horror Nights. And I've had that problem. Like, was that in this house? Was that, there's a lot of things. So, but anyway, so The Fallen sounds cool. It's like a battle between good versus evil. Again, the imagery coming out of this house looks incredible. The set design, the lighting, everything looks incredible in this house. So that has me really, really excited for it. I think they're saving a lot of surprises in this house. Things that I might have heard that were not discussed on the blog and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, Charles Gray mentioned it in the blog. It's like there's too many surprises for us to list in a paragraph. There are things in this house that they are not mentioning that I'm actually really excited for. So, keeping under wraps per se. So I'm really excited about this house. This house has a lot of potential. So number 2 is going to be Dead Waters. So my number 1 should be no surprise, but Dead Waters at number 2. Dead Waters is of course based on the Bayou Blood Scare Zone. From back in 2014. Everybody loved the freaking Voodoo Queen. The Voodoo Queen was a gigantic success. Of course, they had the sacrifice show for a hot minute until people complained. Some people complained, threatened to go to media and stuff like that. They were too offended by the show, so the suits decided to pull it. It was gone so quickly that I never actually got to sit and watch the full show. When I go to the event, I go to the event so much that I like to dissect things, go in sections. So that wasn't high on my list. I was trying to get other stuff done, and then I was going to ease into the sacrifice show, and alas, I missed it because they got rid of it. So I like how in a little teaser video, sacrifice is in that video in bright red letters because I think that they are aware of that controversy, and you know, obviously they are aware of what happened, but I think that they're sort of a little tease to people that lived through that. But the Voodoo Queen will be in this house. There was talk about a riverboat, which I love. Again, the aesthetics in this house look incredible. There's so much beauty to be had this year in sort of you know, in the approach to houses and set design and lighting. It just looks so well done. I'm really super excited about this house. There's, you know, you enter into into the Voodoo Queen's world. It's not called Bayou Blood or some kind of you know, incarnation of that. It's just called Dead Waters. But the Voodoo Queen and that whole story is actually represented in here, which I think is really, really cool. And I cannot wait to see this in person. This is another one of those houses that I've been hearing about forever. So, and then seeing the pictures, like hearing about all these things way, way, way back when. Some of these things I heard about back in January. So hearing these, you know, hearing these concepts and premises, you know, throughout the course of this entire season, and then seeing the photos that are coming out, you know, has me really excited. I have a lot of faith this year that, you know, things are going to be done well. So, but of course, moving on, my number one is Ash vs. Evil Dead. I love this show. I love the character. I love the films. I'm really, really excited to see the Ash Williams character finally represented, you know, in the house. I just finished season 2, which has me even more excited about. I was more excited about it just from seeing season 1, and I'm even more excited after seeing season 2. Season 2 is incredible. If you have not seen season 2, or if you haven't seen the show at all, I highly recommend giving it a watch. It's a very fun show, and I cannot wait to see this in person. I've seen images from this house. You know, I cannot wait. I'm so excited about Ash vs. Evil Dead. I know that this is kind of an acquired thing for some people. I was actually surprised at some of the reaction to this. You know, some people that were not, you know, as excited about it. I think some of the younger generation, I don't think, is as excited about this as maybe somebody my age, which is cool. And that's the beauty of Halloween Horror Nights, is that everybody's got their own, you know, whatever floats your boat. Everyone's got their reasoning behind why they're excited for something or why they want. Like Trick or Treat, for example. I hated the film. I hate the film, but I don't like it as much as some people do. Saw is another example. People love that franchise. The Shining is another example. You know, some people love The Shining. I'm not so high on it as some other people are. The Purge, great example. Like, everyone's got their own little flavor. Everyone's got their own little style, you know, for things. So I know that in the case of Ash vs. Evil Dead, it's not everyone's cup of tea. So, you know, and really, you know, when you talk about the IPs, I mean, that happens with everything. Some people, you know, you're not going to be able to please everybody. You know, everyone's got that, like I said, everyone's got their own little flavor. So, but anyway, that's the house hype list. So we're going to move on quickly to the scare zones. So at number 5 is Altars of Horror. I mentioned why in the past. I just think this concept is completely stupid. You know, it does not. It's just another glorified photo op scare zone up by where Chance was last year. Sorry, not excited for it. Festival of the Deadliest is the next one. Now, in the blog today, they mentioned a lot of this Festival of the Deadliest idea. The Soul Collector's idea has been tossed around a lot, and until I see this fully manifested as something, I just don't care. We don't know a lot about the scare zone either, to really, you know, have, you know, any kind of idea. You know, we've seen the concept art and the construction stuff or whatever, blah blah blah, but we don't know exactly what this is all about. I'm excited for it, but this Soul Collector's idea, you know, I've said in the past how I feel about icons and themes and that nature, you know, things of that nature. I don't think that they're necessarily needed. You know, there are times for it. There are times when they are needed. This year doesn't seem like a year where all this stuff is needed. I think it's just more of a marketing ploy, which is fine if it's done well, but it is what it is. So number 3 is The Purge. I said I might surprise somebody, or some people out. I might surprise some people out there. I'm actually looking forward to The Purge. I enjoyed The Purge scare zone the first time. I think this property lends itself so well to coming to Horror Nights. I think it just fits the vibe. It's an easy scare zone. It's a name property that people know. The concept is easy. And if executed well, it could be fun. And I had a lot of fun in that the first Purge, which I believe was 2014 as well. I had a lot of fun in that scare zone. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do this year. The different elements, such as the wood chipper thing and the cleaning of the streets and stuff like that. I'm actually interested to see that, even though I don't like the films that much. It's called being open-minded, which I don't think a lot of people have an open mind these days. And I try to keep an open mind as much as I possibly can. So, Walking Dead last year was a great example of that. I know people, we'll get to that in a minute, but I know people don't like The Walking Dead at the event. It was there for so long, but I still gave it the benefit of the doubt every single year. It didn't piss me off like it did some people. The Purge doesn't piss me off. It is what it is. I'm not. I don't hate on it like some people do. It is. I enjoyed the scare zone the first time, so I'm interested to see what they do this time. So, but anyway, moving on. Number 2 is Trick or Treat. Again, I'm not a fan of the film, but everything that I've seen so far in the scare zone looks phenomenal. So I'm actually really looking forward to the scare zone. I don't have to be a fan of the film to not look forward to the scare zone. It's generic. It's a Halloween themed scare zone, so the film name doesn't really matter. As long as it's executed well, the scare zones look. It looks good. The scare zone looks very good. The Sams, the controversial Sams, the selfie Sams, all that stuff. It looks good. So I'm actually looking forward to Trick or Treat. Last one, no surprise, I said it in the video before, is Invasion. Just look at the pictures from Invasion. There's a fucking flying saucer crashed into the street in there. That's all I'm going to say about that. Invasion is hands down my most anticipated scare zone. So before I leave, because I'm running grossly over time here, I did want to mention no repository. There was a lot of reports this morning that the repository was coming back because there was a glitch on the website. This is why when I post stuff, I wait, because I don't care about being first. I don't care about I don't care about any of that stuff. I like to get as much of the facts as I can correctly before I start posting stuff. I like to wait, and this is why, because things happen. There are mistakes that happen. I'm in no rush to be first. So no repository as of this moment. Charles Gray, when he did the blog, said that this was it. This is everything. Everything has been announced. So there were some rumors in the early days of speculation season this year that the repository was coming back. Obviously not. Also, it's been talked a lot about the past couple of days. Obviously, no Walking Dead. I've been sitting on this since January. There was no Walking Dead coming back. Unless something drastic happened, there was no Walking Dead coming back. So, no Walking Dead, yay. No 3D house, which again, I'm really excited about because I fucking hate the 3D houses. It's very rare that a 3D house is actually good. Everything has got to gel for a 3D house for it to actually work. And it's happened very few times in the history of Halloween Horror Nights. Last year was an example of one of those going horribly wrong. I'm really glad that there is no 3D house this year. One last thing, the Facebook page, there was some talk about this about a month or two ago. On the events for the Halloween Horror Nights, they put everything listed at everything closing at 2 a.m. Every day closing at 2 a.m. I talked about it with a couple people online, and it just seemed to me like it was a mistake, and it is a mistake. It's been confirmed. Everything it closes. The non-peak nights close at 1, and the peak nights close at 2 a.m. One more thing is the map. We're going to have both of these sprung tent houses are going to be entering over by the MIB bathrooms. Where they're going to exit from, I don't know, but it could be because of a certain mustachioed plumber starting to plunge his way into the studios. But yeah, so the Reaping, the Scarecrow, the Reaping, and Hive will both enter over by the MIB bathrooms. Ash vs. Evil Dead will still be over by the parade building. You enter over there next to ET, but both houses will now enter. Both sprung tent houses will now enter next to the MIB bathrooms. So there's that. A little food for thought as we move forward here. But anyway, I've gone grossly over time, so I'm going to get out of here. It is time to end. Everything is revealed now. So no more speculation season. We are 2 weeks away from the event. Go forth. That's it. I don't think I have anything else. Whatever. If I miss anything else, I'll do it in the chat cast. So that is it. No more. It's over. Well, it's not over. It's just starting. But we know everything. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later.